Hello, I'm Vince White. I'm an employment attorney, and we are answering a question from a YouTube user, username FitGirlLegBusta, who is a routine commenter on the channel, and I think comes up with some really good hypotheticals. And I don't normally answer hypotheticals unless I really feel like they help someone, like they pose the situation in a way that's going to help people think about it, and that's what her hypotheticals tend to do. So I always try to take the time and answer them. Usually, I don't answer hypotheticals just because I want to help actual people with actual problems. And it's like, just give me your actual situation without identifying characteristics, and I'll try to answer that for you, right? I want to have a very tangible, like, there. That's something. Maybe you feel it helped you, maybe it didn't, but I tried to help you. That's what I want to do most of the time. But with these hypotheticals, kind of as I mentioned, I feel like they're helping the people like in the future. Like someday somebody might search for like a set of circumstances similar to what she set out, and that person might find our exchange and be like, "Whoa, this is just like what I'm going through. This is useful to me," right? And that would make me feel pretty great. Um, Now, let's read her question in because I've already gone a minute and a half without even reading the question because I'm a fool. One of the worst things about working for a corporation are the kinds of axeman tactics where they don't fire you right away, but they simply make the environment or demands intolerable for a temporary period of time, like a year or two. Usually, this is paired with outsourcing in order to not lose too much productivity. It includes things like arbitrary or inane extra steps in processes or made up requirements for work, and almost always results in mandatory overtime of increasingly overreaching amounts. My CEO has done this at several companies as a loaner. He's been loaned to several other companies, then returning to our company to continue his day job. It's only a matter of time before he does this at home, so his day job, where I presume Fit Girl Leg Buster may work. He does this in similar industries in our region as well, and we all have similar lifestyles and socioeconomic statuses, so we talk. We talk with those that were fired or quit due to the new requirements that disappeared right after the CEO left. We talk about the tactics, and they are pretty consistent across the board. Some of these places remain outsourced, and some of them completely reversed course after our part-time axeman left the company to come home. It seems like a trick to obscure things from shareholders and avoid public outcry. Is there no recourse for this sort of thing? It seems like gaslighting and harassment. Okay, so great question. First, let's talk about the problem. Every job, every line of work has a way in which management will try to force people out without actually terminating them. For example, teachers, I don't know what they call it in other states, but in New York State, kids have IEP plans, right? And what the administration at a given school will do is they say, oh, this teacher, pretty active in the union, kind of annoying. I can't really fire her or him, but I got all these IEPs. So what I could do is strip a paraprofessional out of the classroom, then go through these IEP plans, which are like lists of the special needs that various kids have, and assign a bunch of really difficult IEPs to this one classroom, which is now understaffed. So maybe violent IEPs, and that's especially for like special ed teachers. If a principal or an administration want to get rid of a special ed teacher, they just assign that teacher violent IEP students. That's just what they do. At least in New York City, that's a very common tactic. Another industry to look at, like police officers, corrections officers. Oh, you're a squeaky wheel? You complain? Okay. It'd be a real shame if nobody showed up when you called for backup. I mean, we'll come. We'll come. A couple minutes late. A little slower. Just, we're on a slow response time today for you. People can die that way. That is horrifying. It's also very, very common. listen, there people working in the trades not getting the right cooling vest, not getting the right safety gear, getting higher quotas in terms of the work to get done for the day, not getting overtime, getting way too much overtime. Um, not, I mean, there's no people, lumberjacks, loggers, right? Being sent to work alone, which is wildly unsafe in that industry. Just away from people where if something happened to you, because it's a freaking dangerous industry. If something happened to you, like nobody would necessarily know right away. Like a smart lumberjack, a smart logger would be like, I can't stay here. I have to go because if my chainsaw kicks and it cuts me, I'm just gonna bleed out and no one's gonna know and get me medical attention. No one's gonna help me with a tourniquet. No one's gonna get me to the hospital, right? And listen, I'm giving extreme examples, but like you give good examples too. Just making up nonsense. Oh, I need you to do 30 TPS reports a week. They're each going to take you about half an hour, and then do all your regular work, right? And listen, we joke about TPS reports from Office Space, but like, yeah, you make a good point. They just make up requirements, which is their purview as the employer. They can say, hey, we need you to do these things. This is part of the job now. And it's just too much, and you end up resigning. You end up leaving. Now, that's the problem, right? And you kind of ask, is there no recourse for this sort of thing? Well, it depends. So if you've been engaged in any kind of advocacy, so if you've been talking about discrimination, if you've been talking about sexual harassment in the workplace, if you've been talking about union rights or engaging in union activity, if you've been talking about whether or not you're being paid properly in terms of minimum wage or overtime, all of these things are protected activities. Various jurisdictions include and protect additional protected activities. If you've done any of those things, if you've engaged in any protected activity and then they engage in a pattern of worsening your work conditions, making you unsafe, making your job harder, making your life harder, at that point, that is a claim. So often where they're engaging in these, I like to steal, people always talk about shadow banning on social media. I think of this, and this is really, it's called a constructive termination, but I think of it as a shadow termination because it's like, yeah, we'll just abuse this person quietly from the shadows until she or he leaves, right? And it's kind of win-win for the employer if they get away with it because they either get huge amounts of work out of the person stays, or the person leaves because you would leave because it's a bad job at that point, right? And so, yeah, you're going to have to get creative. And often what I would say is if you feel like you're the victim of this sort of thing, start looking at why and how you can make a complaint in writing and how you can engage in a legitimate, good faith protected activity to get yourself some protections would be my simplest advice here. Certainly. I hope that's helpful. If it's helpful, like and subscribe. Helps me to help more people just like you. And keep asking questions. I'll keep trying my best. Try my best to answer. Take care, everybody.